research is really coming together, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. Our analysis has been 100% spot on, unfortunately, on just how tyrannical this takeover is, and the fact that once the cashless society is in place, the system is going to raise taxes by design on record at every level to selectively destroy families, businesses, independent corporations. And all of the mega insider Agenda 21 crooks, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, the rest of them, they are all 100% exempt from even legal and lawful laws and all the other red tape regulations and color of law that they're engaged in. Homeland Security for the TSA and Viper teams is buying massive amounts of armored mobile checkpoint bulletproof booths to be set up on highway checkpoints. The IRS is trying to get federal legislation passed where if you are even being questioned or audited by the IRS, you are not allowed to leave the United States. I saw 10 years ago Homeland Security, before it even had congressional cabinet power, meeting and saying we're going to have highway checkpoints, we're going to have DNA databases, you're going to have Homeland Security approval to travel state to state, we're going to have checkpoints outside major cities and on highways, and if you haven't paid all the taxes, including local, your car is not going to start. And now all those systems are going in the cars. Where, oh, you don't pay your bill, we turn your car off. But now they're saying, oh, we're going to use the kill switches. Your cell phone will be turned off, your car, and you will not be allowed to have a job. Your bosses will be told you are fired. So it's an extrajudicial, immediate probation and freeze on being able to move. And it's all being phased in. Face scanning cameras everywhere. Now remember, this is being done by the narcotics trafficking, murdering, child molesting, child kidnapping criminals that run this country. Here's the Daily Mail a few days ago. Mitt Romney's wife had blind trust invested in Goldman Sachs sex trafficking fund. And they go, well, it's okay. It's a blind trust. That's a red herring. It's not even about her. I can buy that she's in a blind trust because she's political. Most of them are. And so there's not conflicts of interest, and they're invested in Goldman Sachs because they're the insiders. They're the ones that always have the big profits. It's not about her. It's about how, hiding in plain view, why does Goldman Sachs have a sex trafficking fund? Here's Reuters. Ann Romney's trust invested in fund that controlled a sex site firm. Here's another one. Ann Romney's trust invested in Goldman Sachs fund that was involved in the sex site Backpage.com, which is connected to, in the reports, sex trafficking, sex slaves, underage, all this stuff, and this whole seedy underworld. That's not the issue. Why is Goldman Sachs involved in this? Why is DynCorp involved in this? Why is Halliburton on record? Because they do whatever they want, and they're getting rid of our Bill of Rights and Constitution. They're announcing that they're illegally spying on us. They are, through groups like MF Global, stealing billions of dollars and lying and being caught and not getting in trouble. We are in grave danger. That's why Forbes had the headline a few months ago, why is there a war on lemonade stands? And they reported on thousands of raids in every city under federal control of little kids selling lemonade, learning about the free market. $15 million fines for garage sales with local federal enforcers. That's Fox News. I know you think I'm joking. Look it up. $15 million, that's the third offense. $10,000 first offense if any of the products you're selling out of thousands of recalled items a year, if you are selling an item that was ever recalled for whatever reason, as if you know, some refrigerator, toy, a light bulb, it's total bureaucratic hell. We've got a report that's going to air tomorrow night that they've been going out 3 days straight interviewing the Austinites around the tens of thousands of acres that were taken from private landowners at gunpoint. You were forced to sell for pennies on the dollar back in the late 80s and 90s. With most of the land, 5 years later to 10 years later, they flip it and give it to select insiders for pennies on the dollar to build hotels, salons, golf courses, luxury home developments. They just didn't want to pay for the land, so they just said, eminent domain for the earth, 5-10 cents on the dollar max. There were SWAT teams sent out, farmers drug off, I interviewed them, celebrations of evil by the fake environmentalist. Now they've got UN, Agenda 21 affiliated signs up. They are putting huge game fences up all around them so the neighborhoods and cameras looking into people's houses. We have footage of people in their kitchens looking out with cameras facing out. Humans are arrested and charged if they're caught. By the way, my reporters did enter the preserve because, again, they don't want they promised everybody it's going to be parklands, let us steal it. And a lot of Austinites went, take the land, we want to use it as more greenbelt. And, of course, I knew in other parts of the world, in the U.S., they would always take it and keep it. And we interviewed former head county judge Bill Elshire, who was a good guy and opposed the federal takeover. I didn't even know he lives up against one of these with cameras aimed at his house. But he's retired now. Got a full head of gray hair instead of black hair. I hadn't seen him in about 12 years. The guys went out and interviewed him yesterday. Very powerful interview. And it is Agenda 21. And the newspaper, the Austin American-Statesman, said, even worse, breathlessly, people have walked humans into the preserve. And when it grew into people's backyards, because the government took an easement of their backyards, the cedar trees that grow like weeds, they're from Europe. They push out the oak and everything, invasive species. There have been charges and fines. One man cut one down that was on his property, but it's an easement the government took. And you know what? There's also going to be some charges. People have been also killing rattlesnakes. I know. It's evil. In fact, guys, show folks, just type in Dr. Michael Kaufman, UN maps, Kaufman with a C, show prisonplanet.tv viewers the UN maps that were shown to Congress in '94, where half the U.S. is off limits. Compact cities, checkpoints outside the cities. The real plan in the UN biological diversity assessments, I showed the original documents. They've now expunged everywhere but the library. In Road to Tyranny. I show the text outlined from the University of Texas Law Library, UN Biological Diversity Assessment, 1996, in my 2001 film, actually came out in early 2002, Road to Tyranny. And they say you'll be in compact lockdown cities, small rural communities. I'll be outside those, kept at a subsistence level. You'll be arrested if you try to hunt any animals to eat. There will be gladiatorial games and public human sacrifice to unify the population around a new global green religion. Hunger Games is what they're planning. You saw The Running Man, where they arrest people if they're out after the curfew, and the secret police have face-scanning cameras and fake TV newscasts and big jumbotrons in the cities with the head of Homeland Security, the head of National Security, saying, watch your neighbors, turn your parents in. It's cool, it's trendy. And that's a Stephen King book he wrote in like 1980 that came out, what, in 84, 85 with Schwarzenegger? You see, it's all predictive programming. In your face. This is what's really planned. I happen to know via Shooter Jennings that, again, they take people's writings that understand where we're going, and then they decide to push it, not because the system's against it, but they want to acclimate you. I know that Stephen King, through Shooter Jennings, is aware of the New World Order, doesn't like what's going on. But again, they still take his book, turn it into a movie. It's probably the same thing with the lady that wrote Hunger Games. We contacted her. The publicist said she's not doing interviews. But watching that film, it's exactly what they have planned. It has 12 regions. We have 10. Over half the country's off limits. They've cut off the resources in a feudal system. That's what Maurice Strong calls for, a post-industrial world. Red alert. CBS News. Oh, the IRS? Bill would suspend passport rights for delinquent taxpayers. Folks, you have a right as a citizen to come and go out of the country. But now, a collection agency for the foreign private Federal Reserve established in 1913, the bankers are saying, and we've always, what Ron Paul said, they selectively enforce, they let the illegals in. These borders and fences and walls and checkpoints 100 miles in are not, and they're called national security zones, are not for the illegals. They have always planned, and I've told you hundreds of times, you're not going to be allowed to even go through that zone. And they're announcing they're going to build them on the other side of the highway now. Do you understand? And they've said, you're going to go in to buy, you'll still have cash, but there'll be a face scan and thumbprint. Just a passive camera there under federal law. They're already having the places put it in voluntarily. The insurance companies give them discounts. It's already going in everywhere. Thumbprinting, face scanning everywhere. Yeah, here's the video, John Bound. We'll show when we come back from break, okay? No. We'll show it when we get back from break, okay? I don't have time with 30 seconds. Back to what I was saying here. Oh, the IRS bill would suspend passport rights for delinquent taxpayers. And here's the other one. After huge ammo buy, DHS purchases bullet-resistant booze. Federal agencies preparing to unveil more checkpoints. Folks, I got Kurt and Emma putting all these stories together. Listen to this. 83-year-old woman denied health care over carbon footprint. Go home and die. That's mainstream news. They say kill babies up to age 3.
Right.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done's been right.
It's all out in the open now. Absolute, total control freaks telling the public that they're going to take over every facet of our lives to protect us. But as history shows, as our founding fathers warned, as common sense shows, the greatest danger is a big government. And we've got the biggest government that's ever existed, the most out-of-control government that's ever existed. And this is their plan. This is what they're doing. I told you the entire time, this is about internal checkpoints and stopping people who haven't paid their taxes and who can't pay their taxes from traveling. And in the future, they want to destroy the underground economy. The bankers hate it that more than 50 million people conservatively, according to the government's own numbers, don't pay the income tax to the private Federal Reserve. They've just dropped out. And so they're attacking the Amish. They're attacking the farmers and ranchers. They're attacking these farmers' markets, these swap meets, because it's the underground economy. And if they can't make you go to a big box store buying from China that further deindustrializes us and was designed to shut down our economy on record, and if they can't cut off our power with the carbon taxes, they're not going to be able to take over. So they're going to make it illegal to cut down your own trees, to use them as firewood, as a wood-burning stove. They're trying to ban space heaters. They're trying to ban outdoor heaters. Go look it up. They've already banned most of the toilets, dishwashers, dryers, light bulbs. Everything's standardized. Federal regulations say all the phones have to be dialed into to where they can be backdoored without a warrant and listen to you. Now admitted. All the computers the same. The globalists standardize it. They own the big mega corporations that send out all these Trojan horse systems as they massively expand the federal jackboot force and hire a bunch of people that think it's really cool to stomp on the Bill of Rights and Constitution. And as they use America's money and ingenuity and energy to launch wars against innocent countries, using Al-Qaeda now in 6 different countries to try to overthrow the government. And then say, give your rights up because Al-Qaeda wants to attack. On record. The magnitude of this article, CBS News. A bill authored by Southland lawmaker could potentially allow the federal government to prevent any American who owes back taxes from traveling outside the U.S. is one step closer to becoming law. Again, this should be internal checkpoints to control population through cashless society, beyond Orwell. Internal checkpoints to arrest, because that is what's going to happen. I told you this was coming for over a decade. A bill authored by Southland lawmaker that could potentially allow the federal government, that means the Goldman Sachs government, to prevent any Americans who owe back taxes from traveling outside the U.S. is one step closer to becoming law. And again, they'll just keep raising the taxes and taxes and taxes, and they say they're going to add in local, state taxes, all of them to this. Senate Bill 1813 was introduced back in November by Senator Barbara Boxer. Again, so anti-American, she's for total gun bans. Of course, she supports giving your kids inoculations without your consent. I mean, she is a tyrant pig. Again, Senate Bill 1813 was introduced back in November by Senator Barbara Boxer to reauthorize federal aid, highway, and highway safety construction programs for other purposes. The clearing of the Senate of 74 to 22 vote on March 14th, SB 1813 is now headed for a vote in the House of Representatives, where it's expected to encounter stiffer opposition amongst the GOP majority. In addition to authorizing appropriations for federal transportation infrastructure programs, the Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century, Agenda 21 Act, or MAP 21, boy, they really throw it in our face, don't they? It's Agenda 21. They call it MAP 21. Let's put that map back up for folks, the UN map. MAP 21. You figured this out yet? Includes a provision that would allow the revocation or denial of a passport for anyone with certain unpaid taxes or tax delinquencies. Just wide open. Section 40304 of the legislation states that any individual who owes more than $50,000 to the Internal Revenue Service may be subject to an action. Of course, once it's through, they'll amend it down to $5. Action with respect to denial, revocation, or limitation of passport. And that's it, folks. Look, slaves get in, they don't get out. Why do you think they want to let all the illegals in? Because they're going to be slaves, like everybody else. The New World Order doesn't mind if you get into the empire. You're just not getting out of it. Kind of like the military are all giving cancer virus injections on record and DU samples, so they're going to be soft-killed. That's how you decommission a piece of weaponry. They spike you like an old cannon. You figured out yet hardcore murdering criminals run things? We'll tell you about the highway checkpoints coming up. I knew too much.
I just knew too much.
Does that make me crazy?
Does that make me crazy?
That every major study on vaccines, they're filled with cancer viruses? They're murdering us? Does that make me crazy?
Does that make me crazy?
Possibly. Oh, boy. I mean, and we're just allowing a few thousand top globalists, in their own words, that's all there is. Rothkopf has written about that. To do this, to set up a nightmare system, to stage terror attacks, to pose as our saviors, to publicly run Al-Qaeda on top of it all in front of us, but say give our rights up because Al-Qaeda will get you, and hire a bunch of low-grade morons at every level of the bureaucracy who will trample everyone's rights, including their own. I mean, look at this headline. This is so scary, by Paul Watson, and he has links to the press release by the Homeland Security Department. After huge ammo buy, Department of Homeland Security purchases bullet-resistant booths. Federal agency preparing to unveil more checkpoints, and they've announced that they have tripled the funding for the Viper teams to be on highways and are training local police to man the mobile armored checkpoints. And what happens is you pull up, and under the transportation department, they have people there, and they come over with their drug dogs, their bomb dogs, bug their eyes out at you, act like, they're on the front lines of Afghanistan. And yes, they're starting, I have video on newscast, groping people on the side of the road and at bus stations and train stations from Texas to Florida, from California to Michigan. I've got the newscast. Just type in TSA at bus station and it'll show them groping little kids, even pulling their shirts off. And look, it's not happening to me, you filthy scum, okay? You work for murdering, child kidnapping criminals. There it is. Mitt Romney's wife had blind trust invested in Goldman Sachs' sex trafficking fund. And again, my issue is, why do they have a sex trafficking fund? Well, I mean, why not? DynCorp runs child operations, and then they run domestically. They're the biggest private contractor for CPS. With fake family court power, with police backing them, it's DynCorp operatives grabbing your children. But it's all done officially. And it's come out that there's bounties on what type of kids they want. And the state senator in Georgia announced he was going to release how they had a bounty on kids, and got her head blown off over the weekend before she could make the announcement. We'd interviewed her. Oh, but her and her husband, when the police said both committed suicide, she's like, Monday I'm coming out. I got the proof. She was even contacting the media. And all of this was going on. And then her and her husband got a couple bullets in their schnoggins. Nice people run things. You're really nice people. Well, of course they kidnap kids. They see us all as meat, as cattle, as lower than cattle. But I know a lot of you aren't going to listen now. You're only going to listen later. I understand that. It's too scary to admit this is going on. So you're going to just say, this isn't true. This isn't going on. This can't be real. Just like I told you a couple weeks ago, that NBC tape where they were claiming Zimmerman was saying racist stuff sounded edited. They now admit they edited it and it's all made up. But it's no big deal. They're just the government mouthpiece, MSNBC, is trying to start a race war. It's no big deal. And now CNN's been caught altering the tape because it's criminal government policy to get us fighting with each other so they can be the referee and play the part of the savior, when they are the narcotics trafficking, child kidnapping, cancer-injecting, murdering criminals that make Hitler look like a choir boy. They don't dress up in a military dictator outfit like a clown like Hitler. The globalists sit there like loving liberals and give you a loving cancer shot. The patchouli oil, all of it is the cover for their mass murder. It's hardcore camo. It's camouflage, who these people really are. In public, Margaret Singer's like, I love blacks. Behind the scenes, we got to murder these people now. We're going to pose as liberal. We'll get them. And they do get you. The liberal TV's like, oh, we care about you, Al Sharpton. The whitey, have some more abortions. And we're going to put more of you in prison. Here, watch some violent hip-hop. This is how the New World Order rolls. That's how they divide and conquer. 83-year-old woman denied health care over carbon footprint. It's beginning. It's beginning. No health care for you. You're too old and you're traveling too far. But the elite are going to fly around in jet airplanes everywhere. See, the new economy is the shutdown of the economy. The new economy is the police state. The new economy is the cannibalistic economy, the post-industrial implode economy. It's all in the Club of Rome. It's all in Iron Mountain. It's all in Tragedy and Hope. George Orwell, real name Eric Blair, who worked as an imperial policeman in India from a wealthy elitist family, then got disillusioned and went to work for the communist, fighting Hitler, pre-World War II and the Spanish Civil War, and found out they were just as bad and actually working with other corrupt elements. Then he went and became homeless to experience that for a few years, and then he wrote 1984. And he's himself, because he was a propagandist in World War II at BBC. I forgot that part. The evidence shows probably MI5, definitely connected to it. And he writes about Winston himself as a nom de guerre, nom de plume, Winston in this fictitious 1984. Because before he'd written nonfiction books, but they wouldn't publish his book about where he saw Europe and the world and England going under communism, and how bad it was. And in the film, the government, he finds out, has a deal with the other government. He thinks it's probably the same government, to rocket attack each other, because then the government can take the public's liberties, and he figures out they blow up their own buildings to claim it's terrorist, so they have an excuse to arrest people. And he finds out it's a war against humanity. And they have gladiatorial games as well, and everybody's obsessed with the lottery, Mega Millions. Because that's real, folks. That's what they really want. That's what they're really doing. our research is really coming together, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. Our analysis has been 100% spot on, unfortunately, on just how tyrannic highways. And if you haven't paid all the taxes, including local, your car is not going to start. And now all those systems are going in the cars. Where, oh, you don't pay your bill, we turn your car off. But now they're saying, oh, we're going to use the kill switches. Your cell phone will be turned off, your car, and you will not be allowed to have a job. Your bosses will be told you are fired. So it's an extrajudicial, immediate probation, even being questioned or audited by the IRS. You are not allowed to leave the United States. I saw 10 years ago Homeland Security, before it even had congressional cabinet power, meeting and saying we're going to have highway checkpoints, we're going to have DNA databases, you're going to have Homeland Security approval to travel state to state, we're going to have checkpoints outside major cities, and I'll call this takeover is, and the fact that once the cashless society is in place, the system is going to raise taxes by design on record at every level to selectively destroy families, businesses, independent corporations. And all of the mega insider Agenda 21 crooks, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, the rest of them, they are all 100% exempt from even legal and lawful laws and all the other red tape regulations and color of law that they're engaged in. Homeland Security for the TSA and Viper teams is buying massive amounts of armored mobile checkpoint bulletproof booths to be set up on highway checkpoints. The IRS is trying to get federal legislation passed where if you are